Welcome to Water Talk with Paul the Waterman, brought to you by Water Pros. Paul the Waterman is Colorado's expert on all things related to the water we use and drink in our homes. Have you ever thought about where your water actually comes from? Is it safe to drink? Is it harmful to my health, my skin, my hair? Paul the Waterman knows water, and he has the answers. Haystack Help Radio proudly presents Water Talk. Now here's your host, Scott Watley, and owner of Water Pros, Paul the Waterman.
Old Ann and I, with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water, water, cool water, clear water.
And we'd like to welcome you to Water Talk, brought to you by Water Pros. Always good to have the owner, Mr. Paul Dowding, with us, better known as Paul the Waterman. How are you this fine day, sir?
I couldn't be better.
Couldn't be better, right?
Couldn't be better. I'm lucky to be alive right here in America.
We all are.
Better than being alive in Afghanistan or Iran or Turkestan.
Exactly.
Or any one of those stands.
Any of those stands, right. Absolutely. How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been fun. It's been exciting. And then beautiful day, here today. On this weekend, we have to remember those who gave it all for us to be able to sit here and talk about the quality of our water.
Absolutely. Certainly we do say sincerely thank you. And today is about some people kind of get the Veterans Day and all the days mixed up. And, I mean, hey, we always ought to be thankful for our military, but this is the day for those that paid the ultimate price. And certainly
the sacrifice, ultimate sacrifice. And for the families out there that live through it, my heart is with you, and especially this weekend. So it's going to be a somber remembrance, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, sir, some people say, man, you guys have so much information. I was talking with a guy the other day on that show. He goes, I'm driving, and he says, there's so much information. Do y'all have encyclopedias out there you're just reading stuff out of, or where do you getting all this stuff? And I said, no. And I said, to be honest with you, of course, we're more in tune to it, but if you watch for things and just, man, if you Google something every day, Paul, there's something different and not good reports on our system, water system.
So I want everybody to stop and think about something for a second. And it's I'm going to get into like the spiritual things, but the earth, everything that happens to the earth happens to us. I want you to really think about that. Where did we come from? So us, spiritual believers believe that, we were made of dust, dirt. God put us together and blew life into us. And so, as we come from dust and dirt, then we'll go back to, dust and dirt, correct? I was thinking about this the other day when I was doing some research for today's show, and it just hit me, slapped me, right in the face. It's like everything that's contaminating the earth is contaminating us.
Sure.
I mean, that's the truth of it, right? So water, which is life, and the water contamination, we're getting all that contamination based upon the water that we drink and the food that we eat. Mm-hmm. And so we have what's called global contaminants. I'm going to call them global contaminants, and that they're all over in their environment and something that you cannot dispute any longer. And so we have, the forever chemicals. I mean, that in itself is a big one because it's been going on for so long, but the issue's been hidden for so long. I mean, they only started talking about this last year.
Right.
But, in my industry, people were talking about it as far back as, 2017. But it was just contaminants in my industry that they were talking about. Hey, this is coming up. But no one had a clue how big it was until the story broke in Colorado Springs with the forever chemical issue, because of the firefighting foam, next to the military base.
Right. I had a guy ask me about that. He goes, you guys mentioned that firefighting foam. He goes, there's not that many fires where that could really cause a problem, is there? Was his question to me.
It's all over. The forest fires that we have, the foam that they use to fight those forest fires created by the forever chemicals. Mm-hmm. And DIA still uses it.
Sure.
And so on top of 50 years plus That goes 50 years, basically goes back to, the 70s, the 60s. But this chemical, was developed in 1938. And one thing about the forever chemicals is that now it's up to over 194 known chemicals that make up the PFAS family, the PFOs or PFAs family. But then, they recently, a year ago, mandated that the contaminant level, the standard contaminant level, was 17 parts per trillion. And then last year EPA said, no, we need to mandate these down to, 4 part per trillion or less. And now the EPA comes out, there's certain PFAS contaminants that no amount is acceptable. It has to be 0. And so, that's just one. And then you have the microplastic contamination. And the microplastic contamination tested positive in every single body of water in Colorado that was tested for microplastics they found. And then we have microplastics converted to nanoplastics, and nanoplastics are now basically found in the human body, and they're so small that they're penetrating the cell.
Right.
And so we have that issue. And one of the things I want to go back today when I started is that we have to think about, everything that is of this earth is us. It's in the air that we breathe, it's in the water that we drink, it's in the fruit and vegetables that we eat, and it's in the meat that we eat. It is basically a global contaminant. It's all over the place.
And when you look at some of the stories we've covered over the last few weeks and a couple of months even, of just the effects of ranchers and what are they doing, and farmers, they're growing our vegetables, they're raising our beef and all the things that we're eating.
Well, let's talk about that. What happened with those ranchers and farmers in Texas and Michigan? And one of them was we had a waste treatment plants sell humid sewage to companies that make fertilizer, and the fertilizers they sell to farmers to spread all over the for the hay field, right, for the pasture, for the grass to grow, for the corn, to grow, for the hay, the alfalfa, as I mentioned. Well, now those farms have been, contaminated with unhealthy levels of the forever chemicals, the PFAS. And that's just from taking out of the sewage plant. So that has to tell you the levels of contamination. And now we want to talk about those that want to do reusable water.
Right.
So it's
pretty much, I think every community is going to have to do it.
Well, and everybody technically, in my opinion, Scott's doing it right now anyway, because of, let's pick on the Platte River. Denver dumps their wastewater from the waste treatment plant after they remove the sewage in the Platte River, and downstream Aurora takes it out, or vice versa. And then you have Thornton and Brighton and Broomfield and then Highlands Ranch, so Douglas County. Everybody draws from the Platte. Then we have all the mountain reservoirs. We have Chatfield. We have, they just did a flushing,
Cherry Creek.
Cherry Creek, yeah.
Yeah, I drove by there the other day and I saw a news truck there and a bunch of people, and I thought, I bet they're fixing to release that water, in which I forgot what they said. It takes about 6 hours for it to get to downtown and all that. But I was just wondering, it's been several years since they've done that, had that released. So what does that do when that's been released for the first time and after all that? Got to be so many contaminations and sediments.
Not only that, but then anybody that draws water from that area, you're just adding dirt and turbidity, floaty dirt, right, into the water supplies that, the water treatment companies. So when they pull the water from those reservoirs and they run it through their treatment plant, I'm sure there has to be some sort of sedimentation that they remove, but then they're basically bleaching the water and they're treating the water, as it goes, to the home, and that's with the chloramine. It's a disinfectant. So we really need to hit home, the reverse osmosis point of view drinking water system is an absolute for every family's health and safety, especially, this weekend we're going to kick off the summer, barbecue season, swimming pools are going to be opening up. People are filling up their pools in the backyard, and, we want to, if we want to eat organic and eat healthy, it should start with our water. That should be first and foremost. And then not to mention the pharmaceutical issues. Right. Pharmaceutical contamination is something that we haven't even scratched the surface of yet. And that's the next big thing to drop once they become, honest with us. Right. And then there was a story.
What's going to force that? You know what I mean? Because there's so many things going on in our world that are crazy. I think they're really getting off the hook, so to speak, to not have to face this.
It's gonna take some sort of medical outbreak issue, something that the health effect that's going to occur, that they're going to trace back to the water supply. There's going to be some sort of study, some sort of disease. I hope it's not cancer. Something that's going to be on the rise that they're going to blame. The thing that concerns me in a big population area like we have here is hormones. People who choose to augment their body, when they do that, then, as a whole, we have to take in consideration what effect those hormones are going to do to other people. Because there's unintended consequences with this. Because when you take a hormone, any kind of medication that you take, the first thing the body wants to do is get rid of it. So when they prescribe you medication, there's a certain amount of medications that, they calculate what the body's going to get rid of and what's going to be left over.
Mm-hmm. And, medication on its own affects everybody different. So this is going to affect everyone different. Some people could get extremely sick.
I think thyroid. I think issues with the thyroid. That's the first thing that comes to mind that could be affected with with medications and pharmaceuticals in the water supply. So back to the hormones. So when people take hormones to augment their body, and then the other one that really scares me is the puberty blockers. So the body tries to expel that. So once the body metabolizes that, and then you go to the restroom and you flush it down the toilet, that's a metabolite that everybody else will just take in. Mm-hmm. It's transformed. The body transforms that. Again, point of use reverse osmosis drinking water filtration system is stage 1 to help you and your family. Everybody needs to have filtered water, and we can't trust the bottled water industry.
Sure.
I mean, that's another factor that I'm just not sure what's going on with that either.
Yeah. When you go to folks' homes, are you finding what percentage of people have some type of system in their house, whether it's just some kind of filter they bought at a box store, or whether they had some kind of water system? What are you seeing as a percentage of homes that you walk in?
I think majority of the folks, believe it or not, that call us don't have anything.
Okay.
There's a lot of new home building rules.
Sure,
so new homes, right? And so some older homes have existing systems. Or there was a fella, I want to talk about something real quick. There was a fella that called yesterday. He had a softener that he had unplugged, I think, for like 5 years. And he wanted to plug it back in and say, hey, would it work? And I said, resin doesn't last forever, but if resin sits dormant for a long period of time.
And 5 years is a long time.
And it could, the resin could collapse. If it's like, hey, I'm not doing anything, and it just goes bad. But the other thing, that I want to mention to folks is that he had a 62,000 grain system. So a 62,000 grain system, Scott, is like a light commercial water softener. But there's 3 things that people need to think about that they don't. On a 62,000 grain system, does a residential water supply have enough water to properly agitate and backwash that system?
So he's kind of got an oversized system.
And a lot of people online are selling 62,000 grains thinking bigger is better, but then they don't set the salt dosage properly to match the size of the system. So if it's not getting enough salt, then it's not going to get proper cleaned, or if you're cleaning it too much. So if you got a 62,000 grain system, in theory, if you got 15 grains of water, it could last over 4,000 gallons of water. And I say in theory because we don't know if we have, iron or any other conditions. But it could treat over 4,000 gallons of water before it has to go through a backwash. Well, if you're having that thing cycle every 1,000 gallons of water, what that means is that there's a lot of resin that hasn't been used. So when you put that salt water as a detergent, it's going to pass right through that system because it doesn't need the whole dose of salt. So then you get unused salt going out into in his case, into the septic system. That's why water treatment isn't plug and play. You really need to understand the water chemistry and program the equipment properly. Mm-hmm. And so, talking to him over the phone, he's got it's a Fleck control valve. Fleck is all over the internet. F-L-E-C-K.
Okay.
There's mechanical flex and there's digital flex. But a company called Pentair purchased a patent of the Fleck and they mass produce it. So it's all over the internet. And it's a valve, in my opinion, its technology is 35 years old. It's just not up to date. I mean, you can slap a computer, a face panel on it, but the valve design is still the same.
Right.
And so, in that situation, if you get a 62,000 grain system and it's not programmed properly and you're not giving it enough salt dosage, it's just not going to work as need to be. But then again, remember, bigger is not always better in water treatment, water filtration.
Mm-hmm.
And so high capacity water softeners, 9 times out of 10 in the Denver metro area, are oversold. And then people, they're not set prep. They don't have enough salt dosage.
Right.
And then eventually the media will go bad and they'll have a system that's no longer functioning.
Paul the Waterman is with us. It is Water Pros. Their number 303-862-5554 for your free in-home water test. And you know what? Just what Paul mentioned right here, also he is offering our listeners. If you've got a current system and you would like for him just to come, check it out. Hey, do a water test, look at your system, see if it's doing what it's supposed to be doing for you. Hey, he'll do that. And again, that's at no charge. All you got to do is call 303-862-5554. We got to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Thinking about refinancing to save money, just waiting for the rates to come down? Do you need some relief? Take AIM, Affordable Interest Mortgage, 720-895-0500. Want to save $700 to $1,000 a month? Get a 30-year fix at 5.625. Pay off $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in high-interest card credit debt, and give yourself some breathing room. We offer many different loan programs that will save you hundreds per month. Take AIM, 720-895-0500. Thinking about purchasing a new home, but rates are too high? When the rates do come down, will you be ready? Where does the rate need to be for you to buy your next home? Let us help get you ready by maximizing your credit score and increasing your buying power. Take AIM, 720-895-0500. Your locally owned and operated mortgage lender in Colorado for over 23 years. 720-895-0500. That's 720-895-0500. 740 FICO, 80% loan to value, $400,000 FHA loan. 6.507 APR, NMLS 217147, regulated by DORA, equal credit lender, and rates are subject to change.
Hey, let me tell you about one of my favorite stores. It's the Outdoorsman's Attic, located at 2650 West Hamden in Sheridan. Hi, this is Scott Watley, and you may ask, why is this one of my favorite stores? Well, you never know what you're going to find. But I will promise you this. You will find great service and great bargains from this family-owned store. It may be a great deal on that 12-gauge shotgun you've been looking for. Or maybe that rifle you haven't been able to find anywhere. And hey, they might even have that ammo in stock that you have been driving all over town looking for. The Outdoorsman's Attic is a consignment store for hunting, fishing, and camping gear. Now look, you've been moving that gear around your garage for months. Don't move it. Take it to the Outdoorsman's Attic and turn it into cash. Need to get that fishing license, maybe grab some live bait? Head on over to 2650 West Hamden. And if your firearm needs a little work, ask for Scott the Gunsmith. It's the Outdoorsman's Attic, 2650 West Hamden. Tell them Scott sent you.
Replacing a commercial or flat roof is costly, not to mention the complications that can come with following new energy and environmental codes. We here at Roof Savers Colorado want to simplify things for you. Hi, I'm Madison Hart.
And I'm Elizabeth Hart.
Whether you are in property management or own a commercial property, we are here to help you save money and keep an energy efficient and watertight roof.
Flat roof coatings increase the longevity of a roof while also providing UV reflectivity. And there is no need to worry about water accumulation on the roof. With a flat roof coating, water is able to sit on the roof without ever absorbing through it. This leaves the roof at an extremely low risk of experiencing leaks.
Roof Savers has your back. Don't let your commercial roof distract you from your bigger priorities. Let Roof Savers simplify your day-to-day responsibilities.
Call today at 303-710-6916 or go to roofsaversco.com. That's 303-710-6916 or go to roofsaversco.com to have a free inspection done on your flat roof.
You're listening to KLZ 560 AM, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. Again, my name is Scott Watley along with Paul the Waterman. Now you may hear this show, and actually you will next week, a replay we do. But here today live, we want to wish everybody just a great Memorial Day weekend. It's hard for me to say happy Memorial Day weekend because of what it represents, but hope everyone has a safe holiday. And just take a few minutes, not just Monday, but every day this weekend here, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and just be thankful for the freedoms we do have. Hey, we got a lot of problems in this country, but I'll tell you what, still very glad we get to live here, Paul.
Yeah, freedoms don't come free.
Yep.
I heard that in a song.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, but you know what is free? An in-home water test with Water Pros. I hope you'll give them a call. And I'm telling you, we're going to go through some more information here today, the rest of the show, but we're going to talk about some things that folks that are actually, these are facts. And I want to say this every show because it's not, the scare tactics. We're just trying to get you to understand and recognize there's a problem with our water. And you're going to see some things in the media world, but if they were honest, the things that we're hearing about now, you can't tell me they didn't know.
Well, thanks to our producer,
thanks
to our producer Charlie, who found this information that passed it on to us.
He did.
All right, here we go. According to the EPA, recent federal inspectors revealed that 70% of U.S. water systems inspected do not fully comply with the requirements in the Safe Drinking Water Act. The agency added that in some systems have critical cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Now, I mentioned this a while back regarding the bodies of water that we draw from and how, what is our plan, how are we protecting them, but cybersecurity. So everything is basically years ago, in the 40s and 50s, how did we survive? Is everything mechanical? You had men operating gauges and monitoring gauges,
right.
And now everything is basically computerized and, you're doing it from a control center. Well, maybe the safest way is to get back, maybe it's the safest technology is in some cases is to get things offline and go back to the old school way of doing it so they can't be compromised. Common sense is such a dying commodity in today's world.
You're going to put that on your tombstone
It is.
one day.
It is.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it
like,
is, though, man.
Wake up, America.
I
mean,
tell
hey,
you.
wait. And so, now they're going to tell us that 70% do not meet the standards of the Safe Drinking Water Act. So now, remember when I asked the question, hey, have you got a water quality report? Well, no, because 70% of them probably aren't, following that standard.
Sure. And there was another thing here. It said in many cases, systems are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Well, it's back to what I said in the very beginning. Water is life, but we are everything that the earth is. Everything that the earth is basically affects the human being, and the human being is everything part of earth. The American Indians had it right, Mother Earth. Didn't they call it Mother Earth? And then, we ran them out of town, didn't we?
We'll show them.
Yeah. All right, so something else. Since water is a carrier of minerals and chemicals, let me list some of them that are found in water. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, chlorine, sodium, magnesium, sulfur, calcium. No, let's stop right there. Magnesium and calcium are in water are inorganic minerals that our body does not absorb. So we have to really, really, really beat the drum on that because there's a lot of people out there that think, I need the minerals in water. Your body does not absorb those minerals in water. It's the wrong form. So the minerals in water have to go through the process of a plant. And then the plant absorbs those minerals, and then the plant turns it into an organic mineral that our body takes.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing how nature works?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, going on. Potassium, silicon or silica, fluoride, nitrogen, aluminum, beryllium, arsenic, iron, manganese, copper, zinc, lead, I said uranium, silver, mercury. So these are all, just a few of what's in our water. And then we have other chemical contaminants that we just talked about.
Right. Now, would it be safe to say this? Right now, they're testing for certain things, and they're going, okay, it tested positive. But there's probably, and we've got a big list here that you could go through, but there's probably things there that they've never tested, or we don't know they've tested for.
So, absolutely. But here's something else. Think about this. Do you know that hardening of the arteries is called by calcium.
Mm-hmm.
And calcium is what you get out of water.
I mean, what do they call it? A calcium score? Is when you get, your carotid arteries checked or heart checked. They call it a calcium score.
And they have the special X-ray that will show up, and it reads the calcium deposits, and that's hard water. Now, some people and some bodies are different. They don't operate, all the same, right? And so genes are come into play. But then again, I wonder also, will our genes be affected, based upon the quality of our water? Do you ever think about this? Lou Gehrig is comes to mind. Here's a guy that was playing baseball, and then all of a sudden it's like his gene mechanism clicked, and bam, he got a disease which they named after him. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it just fascinates me how that works.
Somebody be super healthy, athlete.
Bam, yeah. And so with the quality of our water, and water is a flushing agent. One of the things that I was talking to somebody about this week is that ideally you want to really drink acidic water, to be very candid with you, because it matches what your stomach acid is, and your stomach acid is acidic to digest food. So if you have acidic water, which is below a pH balance of 7, then it's going to be absorbed faster. If you ever go out and you're working out or you're working outside and you drink maybe a pop or a glass of juice or something, and then you go get a glass of water, and that fast how it precipitates out of your body? Mm-hmm. You ever experience that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's how important it is. So reverse osmosis water gives you that acidic water. And see, the other thing that people want to do is want to drink remineralized water. Well, that doesn't do anything for you. And then the second thing they want to do is drink alkaline or high alkaline water. Think that's going to be
I
a
actually
benefit.
called you about that. Remember?
Yep.
I sent you a picture of a bottle I saw in a store. I just never noticed it before, and it said alkaline. And I asked you, I said, is that good for you?
Yeah, no, it's a counterbalance. I mean, the only thing that when it comes to electrolytes is, the studies with pickle juice because of vinegar and water. And then Gatorade, mastered that formula, and they got the right amount of electrolytes out of Gatorade that we were able to absorb. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing back in the day is people used to drink before Gatorade. I remember as a kid, young athlete, they tell you drink pickle juice to rehydrate yourself faster.
Right, and back in the late mid '70s when I was playing football in high school and things, we always took those salt tablets.
Right.
And they would have you take too.
I think, they have this thing that's called a coronary calcium scan that uses an X-ray that can take an image that shows the plaque that contains calcium.
That's what I was talking about in that carotid artery, because I've done that before. And you can go, it takes just a few minutes. I'd highly recommend it for people too.
Right. And so, but you don't understand, that comes from drinking hard water, absolutely 100%.
See, that's probably the problem. I had one that was a little plugged up there. It's hard water I'm drinking.
So, let's get back to the 70% of U.S. water systems not meeting the standards of the Safe Drinking Water Act. That kind of tells you, in my opinion, where the low totem pole priority water quality is.
Sure.
I mean, wouldn't you think that? I mean, wouldn't you agree? If you have 70%, because clearly tax dollars are being used on different things. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, but, it seems like everything's guided towards money, right? Let's push, we got greenhouse gas that, we're killing the climate. But what about the water? Mm-hmm. But let's everybody into electric vehicle. Well, that didn't last long because now they're shutting down divisions they're trying to force electric EVs, they call them. And so, the divisions in GM, and think both Ford, are shutting down plants that were making the electric vehicles. The other aspect, what kind of gets me is, this green energy with wind and solar farms.
Right.
Okay. But again, water is being ignored.
And again, I just wonder, like you said, it's probably going to take some health, crisis to come along. But I wonder how just the everyday person that listens to this show can get more pressure on their local officials to find out more about their water and the quality of it. What can they do?
I think in the grand scale of things, when a pharmaceutical, I think what's going to happen now, this is a bad, I hope this isn't true. a bad prediction, but I think it's going to affect children. I think children are going to be affected first. I think the medication, the pharmaceuticals, the hormones are going to affect children. And I think that's going to be the first stage. Hey, what's going on? Mm-hmm. You know, another thing, do you remember, here is a term that is not talked about today, but tomboy.
Oh, sure.
Right? I had a cousin that was a tomboy. It doesn't mean that, and then she grew up to be a beautiful, a woman, mother, wife. But, nowadays, if a kid's a tomboy, wants to transition. You see how upside down we are? Mm-hmm. But my point is, the reason I mention it's because the medications that they want to give, to transition somebody to an opposite of what they were born to be is going to affect people like you and I, because the chemicals and the drugs that they're going to give them, the body's going to fight to resist and get rid of, and it's going to be in the water supply.
Yep.
Antibiotics are in the water supply.
I'm going to do my best, and we've referenced a buddy of mine that we talked to one day that is into all this water business and understands all these things with different reservoirs, and I'm going to do my best to get him on with us to go through this, Paul. But, he flat out told us that day on the phone that pharmaceuticals, they can tell the brand. That's how good the testing
every
that
pharmaceutical
is available.
that's in the water. It's there. Scott, what scares me, to be very candid, is that the magnitude of pharmaceutical contamination in our drinking water. Honest to goodness gracious, it really does. And I think, I think there could be current health issues right now if we only took the time to study that are caused by what we're drinking in our water. Mm-hmm. Cancer rates, think about this. Cancer rates in young people are increasing. And they said, and some of the cancer rates, I think there was, colon cancer, I think was one, wasn't liver cancer the other, pancreatic cancer.
Right.
What if that is because, of water contamination? If 70% of water, community water supplies aren't following the Safe Drinking Water Act, 70%, that's a large number. But then out of that, what is in there that the contaminants that should be cause of concern? Because nobody gets the water quality report. So the water quality report, the EPA mandated that water districts, see, now everything's a water district now too. That's these are districts that are made up of non-elected officials that control water districts, and now they want to protect water resources. And I hope that Colorado has a governing body that's designed to protect water resources, and I'm curious if they're going to take it seriously, and how they're going to go about protecting the water resource.
Yeah.
Are they going to limit boating? Outdoor activities regarding a motorboat, and how much contamination does a motorboat supply? The Chatfield, reservoir, one of the things they monitor is E. coli contamination. If the E. coli level gets too high, then they ban swimming. Mm-hmm. So those are things. But all that activity that's done in the water is the same water that is drawn for us to drink.
Sure.
I do chlorine test, and the total chlorine, and I show folks that the total chlorine content is higher in the hot water, because if you got a conventional hot water heater, it's just a storage for the chloramine. That's a chlorine and ammonia mixture. So let's talk about, how do we protect ourselves? The first stage is, do we have really hard water? What does really hard water do? Well, really hard water is going to affect the operation of your appliance, especially now if the EPA mandates even further that your dishwasher and wash machine use less water, then hard water is really going to affect the operation. And so if you got a brand new home in Douglas County, Highlands Ranch, Parker, Adams County out in the Reunion area, you have really hard water. Mm-hmm. And so your brand new appliances won't function properly. And hard water causes soap to curdle, stick, and bond. So, you don't get the cleaning that you think.
Right.
And then the other aspect of it is that hard water, beats up refrigerator filters, inline filters, because the calcium overtakes the filter. The calcium actually coats the filter, and so the water is not absorbed by the filter media. And that's where, if you go to somebody's home that has a water dispenser, an ice maker dispenser in the refrigerator, and you see all the white gunky buildup, that's hard water. The other thing to think about is that when you put in a reverse osmosis for drinking water filtration, hard water and ROs don't mix. RO is short for reverse osmosis. So the reverse osmosis is designed to be a nanofiltration at 0.001 micron. But if you get extremely hard water or calcium, it's going to just tear up that filter.
Right. Does well water have a tendency to be softer or harder?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Well water is a multitude of issues. You can have naturally soft water, but you can have really hard water. You can have iron content. You can have silica. Silica is a mineral in the water that looks and acts like hard water. I'll give you an idea. There's folks that have naturally soft water, but they get all this buildup. What's that coming from? It's silica. So silica is an opposite charged ion than what hardness is. So then silica can be removed by an anion water softener.
But most people, I think, that have well water, I think they're under a false security thinking, oh, I've got my own well, and I've got
the other false security
water.
Other false security they're under that they're thinking is that the minerals in the well water is good for them to drink, and it's not. That's the biggest issue. There's three main things in water filtration that are scams today. One, there's no such thing as a salt-free water softener. Biggest scam out there, I would think. Number two, coming a close second, is reverse osmosis that don't waste water, because that's not true reverse osmosis, because water's not 100% water. So if you're thinking you're going to have a reverse osmosis that's going to filter water without wasting water, then that's not filtering water. Because where does the bad water go? And three is people thinking that there's minerals, beneficial minerals, in the drinking water, and it's just not the case.
Right. Call 303-862-5554 for your free in-home water test. And as I mentioned before, hey, if you've got a current system, Paul will come out and check that out as well, just to see if it's operating as it should. So I hope you'll give them a call, 303-862-5554. We'll be right back.
How long has it been since you said to yourself, I feel like a kid again? That's exactly what I said when I finished my test ride at E-Bike of Colorado in Louisville. The friendly and knowledgeable staff at E-Bike of Colorado made shopping for my e-bike a very fun experience. And they asked all the right questions that led me to buying the perfect e-bike. Going for a ride on my new e-bike is the most fun way to unwind in the late afternoons, and I get a little bit of exercise. Hey, if you've been thinking about an e-bike, trust the largest e-bike retailer in the state. That's E-Bike of Colorado, 544 Front Street in Louisville. Oh, and be sure and tune in Wednesdays at noon for Just Try It, brought to you by E-Bike of Colorado. So if you are ready to feel like a kid again, go to E-Bike of Colorado. Just try it. I did, and I love it.
If you're looking for great quality eye care, look no further than Stack Optical. Hey, this is Scott Watley, and for over 20 years, Alan Stack has been taking care of our optical needs. At Stack Optical, they handle all of your eyewear needs with glasses, prescription glasses, shooting glasses, sunglasses, contacts, eyeglass repairs, and yes, even eye exams. And those eye exams are only $69. And if you've been told you've got a complicated prescription, that's just one of the specialties at Stack Optical. At Stack Optical, they have their own on-site lab, and in most cases, you can have your new glasses in just 2 to 3 days. Stack Optical, 2233 South Monaco Parkway. Free and up-close parking. Call them today, 303-321-1578. That's 303-321-1578, or visit stackoptical.com. And remember, at Stack Optical, you'll see the difference.
KLZ 560 AM, your home station.
Welcome back to Water Talk. Again, my name is Scott Watley, along with Paul the Waterman. It's Water Pros, 303-862-5554. So, Paul, when you go out to someone's house, you do the free in-home water test, because that's really where you want to start, is figuring out the hardness or softness of the water, correct?
Correct.
And why is that so crucial as your first step?
So the first thing we do, if you live in town, we do the hardness test, but the total chlorine test, because total chlorine contamination is very important to me, because of we're breathing that in the steam when we take a shower. We're in well water, we do the hardness test, iron test, TDS test. The total dissolved solid test is very important, because in well water, the total dissolved solids can exceed EPA safe levels of drinking. The EPA standard is 500. And I've been into, several homes where the total dissolved solid levels are, almost 900. And so you have to figure out, well, that's just not safe to drink. And, in parts of Colorado, we can have natural sodium levels in the water. I mean, remember the Great Salt Lake? Well, we had oceans up here billions of years ago, and that's, as they receded, the salt stayed. And so, a lot of folks up north have high sodium, levels. And one thing I also want to mention to folks that live out in the well, that your sodium absorption ratio is a lot different than what the raw sodium levels would be and how it affects, animals and livestock and humans. Sodium absorption ratio is only for the purpose of gardening. Okay. What's it going to do to your trees, shrubs, and grass? That's the difference. And then the other sodium levels that you see, most levels that, 4,000, 5,000, 7,000 won't hurt livestock. It becomes a concern when it gets, to 9,000, milligrams per liter, that becomes a concern. Wanted to, point that out too. So there's wide variety of water issues. And so, again, I always say water treatment isn't plug and play. Mm-hmm. So you really want to understand what the water chemistry is. Iron content, ferrous iron can cause smell, staining. It can ruin appliances. It builds up in the hot water heater. And so, we have a solution for hardness and both hardness and ferrous iron, and that's a dual tank water softener. Because, when you're talking about a water filter and you have those types of problems, it's important that you have a system that can backflush using clean water. Right. And that's what the dual tank system allows you to do. Here in town, we have good old-fashioned, hard water, heavy calcium, but we can manage it. It's not as high as a single tank system, but we can manage it with this, single tank water softener.
So when you go in and you figure out what the grains is there, then, and so if you had to say that's where you start, is to get a water softener if you need that.
Right.
Before the RO system.
Before the reverse osmosis system, right.
Because why do you not want to get the, why do you not want to put an RO system first?
Well, reverse osmosis units, Scott, are not designed to function and be a primary filter. They're a secondary supporting filter. And so really hard water, operating parameters for reverse osmosis is no more than 7 grains per gallon, and that's just being able to function with filters lasting you 1 year. And if you're over that hardness threshold, then those filters won't last. And then you're not getting the nanofiltration protection that you think you are.
And I would bet you've been in people's homes that were sold some type of system,
exactly,
and
correct.
Their water was very hard.
Exactly correct. That's exactly right. One of the things, that kind of gets me back to this article, is 70% of U.S. water systems inspected do not fully comply with requirements in Safe Drinking Water Act. I wonder how many people that have private wells, with their water, comply with the Safe Drinking Water Act. Because, that's basically, in a sense, where do municipalities get the water from? Well, they get them from, reservoirs, rivers, right, lakes. And so then they also get them from underground wells. And so that's one of the things that people that live in the rural area that have a well, have you done an in-depth water analysis, what we can help you with, to ensure that your water meets the minimum safe drinking water requirements.
And that's up to you to do it, right? There's no service that's going to come out and do that just for checking on the quality, is there?
The EPA clearly states in the website, if you're on well water, you're on your own. You're on your own for your own quality, for your own, your own testing. And if you're buying a home, I went out to a home the other day that had, iron content. They're using an old, outdated system, and they were also using potassium permanganate as a cleaner for the system.
And what is that?
That's poison. It is. It's poison. And so it's a system it's an old school system that was designed to remove iron, and then they used potassium permanganate to try to basically dissolve the iron off of the filter media. But, that's just, it's poison. It's nothing that, you want to mess with. And then their TDS level was higher than what was the safely recommended. It was like over 700. And I could tell that they had, coliform bacteria. But what really got me about that situation is that they had somebody come out of well company and they chlorinated the well. The reason why they chlorinated the well, because the well tested positive for coliform bacteria. Well, guess what? That chlorination of that well is not a solution for coliform bacteria. Mm-hmm. It's a Band-Aid. It's enough basically to get them a pass. So so here in Colorado, there are certain mortgage underwriters with mortgage companies that will not write a mortgage unless you have clean water, safe water to drink. And so in this situation, their water had coliform bacteria. Now, coliform bacteria, you and I have learned by, going over, the cause of coliform bacteria, that it's a precursor to other more problematic bacteria.
Right.
Okay. So what the well company did is, well, let's just shock it. So shocking it means they put bleach. They put industrial strength bleach pellets in the water. So that'll kill the bacteria, but you're also going to have an overlying remnants of bleach in that water for a good period of time. So when they draw a water sample, it's going to be negative for bacteria because it's still going to have bleach in it. But once that bacteria is flushed out, once the chlorine is flushed out, then the bacteria will come back and it'll still be there. Plus, think about this. When you get highly concentrated chlorine, industrial strength chlorine, it's going to eat away at all the earth that surrounds that well pump. And so it could create a bigger issue, more problematic water than what existed before. Mm-hmm. So, when you're on well water, there's a lot of things to think about. Get an expert that just understands the water chemistry. Don't throw a bunch of chlorine and think, I'll shock the well and that's going to fix it. It's not. You got to ask the question, how did the coliform bacteria get there in the first place?
Have you had some folks where you've been out and they go, oh, well, I do this or I pour this in ever so often? Have you had people that
Absolutely,
are pouring a lot of
and that's what
chemicals?
they were told the rule of thumb, and that's just a short-term Band-Aid fix. I remember years ago in the Pinery, a couple had really high iron content. Got to be the point, where she was getting ready to move out. She was done. I'm not dealing with it anymore. And they added a bunch of chlorine, and it only made it worse after the chlorination, that dissipated and was flushed out of the system. There's ways that, you can definitely treat your water. You absolutely can. The equipment that I use is made here in the U.S. It's good old United States of America, water treatment, filtration, engineered right here at home, and I trust that. And so we do the water, testing, get the chemistry, we do the calculations, and then we design the system and program the system exactly to what the water tells us.
Right.
Too many times people are throwing a filter. The carbon filters are overused in well water applications. And so the other thing, anytime you put a carbon filter, it can be effective to a point, but then eventually what you're risking to do is, stressing your well pump, because then that filter forces your well pump to pump against resistance, and it's not designed to pump against resistance.
Right.
So back to the main point. Drinking water. Everybody needs to have the reverse osmosis drinking water system, and it all starts with pre-treating your water. Then the RO system can function as designed.
That's all you need. Hey, you got a call, 303-862-5554. It's a free in-home water test, and I just want to mention this again. If you've got a current system and just want to get it checked out, Paul will check that out for you, make sure it's doing what you think it's doing, and hey, don't want you under a false security and spending money and maybe putting salt in or doing different things to it, and it's not even working properly for you. So give them a call, 303-862-5554.
Here's why you need personal injury attorney Kevin Flesh on your side. He understands the way the jury thinks. In the context of a personal injury case, you've been hurt by someone else's negligence. The idea is that you're going to try to recover so that you can get back to where you were just prior to that incident occurring. What that really means from a jurist perspective is that you're going to be asking them to award you money. So when we talk about fairness, we're talking about 6 people that you don't know. Those 6 people view the evidence and make a unanimous decision that will decide what the fair value is. When you're the one who's hurt, you have a good idea of what you think it's worth. The question is, can you persuade those other individuals whom you don't know and were witnesses to believe that's what the case is worth? Kevin Flesh understands the way the jury thinks. Call now for a free consultation, 303-806-8886. Flesh and Beck Law. They get results.
If you're planning on taking your dog along on a hike in the mountains this summer, remember that what may be easy for you may not be so easy for your dog. Hey, this is Scott Watley from my friends and my vet, Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center, with a message about preventing altitude sickness in our dogs. Just as in people, our dogs can experience the effects of altitude and can be serious if the dog is not properly acclimated, especially at altitudes above 8,000 feet. Since not all dogs respond to altitude in the same way, here's a tip to help your dog have a better hike with you. Don't make a trek up a 14er the first hike you take with your dog. Start with short hikes in the foothills below 8,000 feet and work up to higher altitudes and longer hikes over the course of several weeks. Be sure to keep your dog on a lead no longer than 6 feet and avoid letting your dog wander off the trail. You can learn more about hiking with dogs in the mountains by reading Hiking the Trails Safely with Your Dog on our blog page at LoneTreeVet.com. If you have any questions about your pet, don't hesitate to contact the great staff at Lone Tree Veterinary Medical Center at 303-708-8050. That's 303-708-8050.
This is KLZ 560 AM, your home station.
Welcome back to the show. A few more minutes here with our good buddy Paul Dowding, better known as Paul the Waterman. It's Water Pros, 303-862-5554. Paul has got that Christmas spirit where he wants to give a little bit today. So let's give a special for our listeners.
I'm tipping this off to everybody that listens to our show. Go to waterpros.net. There's a special. There's a great sale going on right now. There's limited inventory.
Okay.
So go to waterpros.net, take a look at that, and then just send me a reply and say, hey, I want one, and I'll get you set up.
We're just going to tease it as that, all right?
I'm going to tease it at that. Go to waterpros.net.
Waterpros.net.
Check it out.
Paul will get you fixed up.
It's awesome. I'm telling you, it's really good.
Okay, all right. But, hey, the free in-home water test is available to you as well, 303-862-5554. We were just talking, and actually Charlie asked this. This really comes apart where, yes, hey, we're trying to sell some product. Yes, you're in business. You're trying to sell product. But in the big scheme of things, too, you're really trying to help people have good quality water. And that's why you do this show.
Well, education is the key. I mean, this is more of an infomercial to, point out the problems. Hey, they're out there. We have to think about it, and regardless.
I mean, if you think about it, we really don't talk about selling.
We really don't. I mean, I think you do more the pitching part, and I appreciate it. Thank you. It's just, guys, here's the thing. It hit me again, when I started the show. I mean, everything that's of the earth is who we are. From the air that we breathe, the plants, the fruit that we eat, the meat that we eat, the water that we drink. So if that's contaminated, we're contaminated. Mm-hmm. If the earth is contaminated, we're contaminated.
Sure.
It's that simple. And do we take the time to really think and look at, the water that we're drinking? Do we think, and we take for granted that the soda, the beer, which really disappointed me when they've had nanoplastics in beer. I mean, that just crosses the line. That's it, right? And I'm still boycotting Bud Light, by the way. Just wanted to put it out there. Anyway, but seriously, everything that we drink, especially this weekend, how do we know what's in there? Are we drinking bunches and bunches of little micro nanoplastics that could plug up our arteries? And if calcium makes plaque, it's hardness, right? And then can the nanoplastics, tie up to the calcium?
Sure. Yeah.
So we put it out there, right? There's research. It's proven. Your cardiologist was on 9 News, and we had that. We played that interview. That nanoplastics, microplastics are affecting the heart valves.
I'm gonna try to get him on too. I'm gonna contact him and see if he would.
I would love that. I'd love to have him to share this information. I mean, people need to know this.
Right.
So. Reverse osmosis is step one. If you're in a really hard water market, definitely do the water softener. The water softener also helps because it cuts down on cleaners that we're using to clean up after hard water. Think about the acid and the rough, abrasive cleansing chemicals we use to clean hardness off the shower door and shower wall, and the soap scum that's behind it. All that's eliminated with the water softener.
Mm-hmm. And we said this before, I think last week, we mentioned it the week before, where most people, we'll go back to pharmaceuticals real quick, that want to get rid of expired medicine, if they were honest, probably flush it down the toilet.
Absolutely correct. Pharmaceuticals are absolutely a problem. It's absolutely a problem, especially in bigger cities, New York, Chicago. Bigger cities, believe it or not, are losing population. And Chicago is getting close to now you went from the second city to maybe number 4. People are moving out. But, these other areas where they're going to and they're growing, there's only so much water resources available. And so you're going to be in a reusable water situation.
Mm-hmm. And with the growth we're having here, dude, you drive out and you go out 470 towards the airport, son, they're building everywhere.
And it keeps going and going and going. And so the problem is that the water resources that we have, and everybody wants to do, go draw from the same, water reservoir. So eventually what will happen is that we're all going to be, and we all are really technically at a reusable water stage.
Mm-hmm.
But just remember this. There's no such thing as salt-free water softeners.
Because there's a company.
They're advertising
it like crazy on social media.
And it's not real. And then the other thing is when it comes to reverse osmosis technology, a reverse osmosis, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't waste water. It just takes the dirty water and sends it down the drain, so it separates dirty from clean. So it tells you how contaminated the water is if a reverse osmosis takes 2 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of 98 to 99% pure water.
Right. Salt for the softeners real quick, last minute. Do you like the bigger chunks of salt, the peanut type size
the
salt?
Pellets or
do
the
you
solar?
like the smaller?
I was a fan of the solar salt because pellet salts are glued, but solar salt, and I blame, ever since COVID, solar salt, or the granular salt, can have dirty dust, the particles in it. So, you can use pellet salt. It seems to be cleaner, but just don't fill it up because pellet salt can create a salt bridge.
Okay.
So, go ahead and use the pellet salt, but only dump a couple bags at a time.
Okay, good to know. All right, good deal. Well, Paul, hope you have a great weekend, sir.
Everybody out there on Monday, get up and have your morning cup of coffee and just be glad that you're not going to work, but take a few moments to pay the respects to those that paid the ultimate price, the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely. And we do wish everyone a great, safe, and blessed. That's a good way to put it. Memorial Day weekend here. Everybody be careful. We'll be back next week. Thanks for being with us today. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your Friday. We'll talk to you next week.
The views and opinions expressed on KLZ 560 are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Crawford Broadcasting, the station, management, employees, associates, or advertisers. KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.